Okay, this looks like it's going to be number 5 in the series. So hopefully I'm chipping my way through all the thick material that's sitting underneath this one, superficial understanding that this guy is a groomer and that's as simple as they leave it, as opposed to the root causes of how this is even possible and all these people who are dressed like him and what they're participating in and actively giving their life force energy into doing to the rest of us. Yet the thing is that what I've found is most people, even in the freedom movement, if you want to call it that, or the awake community, whatever titles you want to give yourself, they love it when the knowledge is about somebody else and the evil exists outside of them. So as long as they can identify that, they're all for it. Because I've noticed it with my numbers of views. As soon as I start talking about deeper issues that exist within, where people need to take responsibility for themselves and how we got to where we are and how they're complicit in it, all of a sudden it's not that interesting anymore. So what I found is that unfortunately the majority still operate from that us and them. They don't see that everything's interconnected and they struggle. They really, really struggle with accepting that. It's like you're forcing them to do something that doesn't exist in nature. That's how extreme it gets for most people. And this is the tragedy, as I'm seeing it, as to why we can't make any progress as a collective, because the individual makes up the collective. And if the individual isn't ready to heal, and the only way to heal is to take ownership of your shadows, the things that you project outwards. If you believe evil only exists outside of you, how will you actually take ownership of the things that you do that you don't like? And how will you actually deal with that compassionately if you deny that it even exists, but you want to punish it when you see it outside of you? Well, that's a part of you punishing yourself if you don't understand what you're really doing here. And so I want to bring up this, I guess I'd call it a meme that I really like. So I'm just going to bring that up. So it says, citizens often focus on the personal histories of the villains of authoritarianism instead of the factors in their respective, should I say, societies which made their rise possible. So if we take full ownership of every aspect of our lives, we would never invite these kind of people that we call tyrants to come and take over. So people don't take responsibility for what? Their own education. They don't take responsibility of, actually how they are in their relationships with other people. They always blame somebody else. They don't take responsibility on the knowledge they accept as truths. Most people don't do that. There's so many other things. Do we take responsibility for taking care of our elderly and vulnerable? No, we outsource it out to homes. We're more than happy to do that. So there's all these things that we refuse to take responsibility for. And if you don't take responsibility for it, it still needs to get done. It's still a requirement. So it's going to need to be dealt with. And so then you've opened the door for these people to do it for you. And there's more than enough of them. They come in droves. So unless we take full responsibility for ourselves, we're never going to live free. And while we still blame everybody else that there's an evil out there, we're not taking ownership of how we've invited that behavior to come and impose itself on us. And so this is the part about these parents, for example, that I was talking about. Yeah, they might have got what you'd call a win, but until they get to the root causes and understand what they're really funding, that they're funding political power by going to elections and those sort of things, this is going to keep happening. So I'm going to play a video from Larkin Rose that he really explains it really well and succinctly. So I'll be right back. So this is from Larkin Rose. He does I really enjoy the way he actually explains political power and what's really happening here and what we're outsourcing, and the us and them win and lose situation that we put ourselves in when we accept this kind of style of living.
It's the foundation of the belief in civil government that certain rituals bestow upon a ruling class, a parliament, a congress, a king, I don't care what you call it, bestows upon a select few the right to forcibly control and dominate everybody else. That is the problem. Now, some people, and I may have even heard you say these exact words, say, we need to get corruption out of politics. There is no such thing. Politics is corruption. I don't just mean it's inevitable. I mean, the concept of political power is, by its very nature, immoral corruption. Now, the way it works is the people who get what they want by way of the violence of government bossing people around and taxing people, they call it, they're representing us. And the people on the losing end of that force are like, that's corruption. Except it's always corruption. If you're getting government to use force force in a way that you have no right to use force and I have no right to use force, you are asking for corruption. You are asking for power to benefit you at the expense of somebody else. And that is what every voter in every election is always doing.
So there we have it, guys. I'm hoping that helps. So if I'm going to use these parents now, it's not like, I just want to make sure that this is not like, oh, now I'm just isolating the parents that are standing up for their children's rights as they're bad people in life. I'm just using them as the example, right? So how many times did they go and vote and then go, yeah, I'm getting what I want, that's great, and not really care about who had to lose at the expense of what they wanted, and that they sanctioned the use of government sanctioned force to actually get what they held as important to them. Do you know what I mean? So this is what's really happening here. If we don't understand this, this is going to keep happening. And this is that whole us and them mentality. Instead of seeing each other as expressions of ourselves, that if we really respected each other, we'd see that there are ways that we can get all of our needs met collectively and that we can live together, in abundance. We don't need these people dividing us to do that. There's other methods. But until you understand that concept, you're not even going to be entertaining what I'm saying right now. And this is the real sort of work here, is to just understand the concept of what happens when you vote. You are giving yourself a false choice. And there's a really good image that I really like that I'm going to come back and put up. Well, this is what you're essentially doing when you're voting, right? Because you know how we've got the two-party preferred system? Well, they always lead to the same place. You have a look at, if from day one, since there's been voting, has there been any change, regardless of which political party has been, elected, so to speak, into office? What's changed? It's been the same structure the whole time. They're just putting on a show like you have a choice. It's the illusion of choice. That's what they're giving you. But you're all going to the slaughterhouse, right? This whole pandemic thing never would have happened if we actually had control over the government as we're supposed to in the legitimate system, where we are in control of our own lives. And that's to do with trial by jury. Like I said, I've given you the resources, guys. If you want to go look at it, go back into the previous video. It shows you where to find it. It's all there. But you need to have the care. And what's missing that I'm seeing is people are lacking the care to put their will behind what matters to them. And that can only come from a fear state. So people, unfortunately, don't understand what they've been giving their life force energy into. And until they understand that root cause, right, these matters, these little wins and all that kind of stuff, they're just going to keep us in this perpetual cycle. So that's why I've put these series of videos up, guys, to really start, hopefully getting people who watch this material to start really investigating how they have personal responsibility for the outcomes in their lives. And if you start thinking you don't have power, that's exactly what's going to happen. You're just going to give it up to somebody else who would willingly take that off you. And that's why we've been used as cattle, that have been used and harvested because we refuse to take responsibility for ourselves. So we're inviting that dark force to come and oppress us until we do and take full ownership of every aspect of ourselves, even the parts we're not comfortable with, and start making friends with it and understand it. That's a very important part of ourselves. And so that's kind of the bigger picture that I wanted to paint for this series. I just wanted to check that I've gone over the things that I've gone over: monopoly of force, the false choices, the sovereign citizen, the order following, which is also in the judiciary right now, that the government-owned judiciary, because what happens, what does a magistrate do? It takes away any opportunity for the court to be used for a position of conscience. It's saying the government legislation is correct. It knows what's right for you. It's a one blanket size fits all, and everybody's subject to that. Your personal instances, the context of your situation has no bearing on, whether you did or didn't do the thing the government says you have to abide by, right? So the magistrate's court gets rid of any way that can be discussed or that can be looked into by the people using their conscience, right? Because there's no jury in there, jury of the people. And then in those juries, where they have in criminal cases, and there's a very small percentage that go that far, right? They're being ordered by the judge as what they are and are not allowed to do. So that's order following again. So we have order following, like legislation is a bunch of orders that we have to follow to survive. And then we've got the judicial system, which is being told, you've got directives, you get orders handed out by the court orders, just telling you right there, and then you've got the people who execute it, the military and the police. They're all under orders, yet they've taken oaths to do the opposite. Right? So have a look at the massive contradictions that are right in your face, guys. And if we don't start facing them and really being honest about it, this isn't going to change. And that's not my opinion, guys. That's the fact of reality. And anyone who actually wants to do the work, that's there for you to do.